We
I don't wanna go downtown. I don't wanna mess around. All I think about is your lips, your kiss. I don't wanna have a drink, have a random little fling. All I wanna do is show up at your place and say, let's try this again. I wonder if you think of me. Did you?
hey, oh,
morning.
look at who's joining us. Hey there.
Hey,
Hey, thanks everyone for showing up. You know, I was complaining about people not showing up for anything, but I can count on all you three to show up. It's always important to show up on a Friday, and I hope you all had a great week. Great 2 weeks. I haven't seen you guys for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
What's
you
happening?
had some important events happening.
I did. I had a great event last Saturday, New York City.
how'd it go?
But I posted a little video postcard on X and on YouTube. So if you guys are wondering what I'm talking about, go check it out. It's a little short excerpt.
I saw it. It's pretty impressive. You did a whole presentation where you
I did.
covered
Wow.
all of
I
Western
missed that.
art in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
you
gosh.
you were traveling, Nikki. I remember you said like upstate. So there's no way I can ask you to zip down to New York City. And then Paul, you had something else going on. And Eric, you're out of reach. So yeah, I did this. I was trying to propose to the team that what America, so Trump in his joint session address was announcing that we're on the verge of a golden age. And I wanted to propose that a golden age doesn't come via executive orders or, through an election cycle. It's something that's built over time. So that was really the gist of it, meaning that you have to contribute. That creative people have to contribute, step up and contribute to the golden age. And the way things are in our country, our cultural and artistic institutions are disproportionately occupied by people who hate the country, who hate the West, and are also anti-human. So I don't think that makes for a golden age just yet. We have a lot of work ahead of us. So that was my the thesis for the evening.
And I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about classical futurism and what
I just came up with that term, classical futurism, because it's a fusion of our tradition, right, dating back to antiquity, Greco-Roman, and then fusing it with America's spirit of innovation. And I showed examples of that in a little bit early post-industrial America, where our designs and aesthetics, like the Art Deco, Art Nouveau, and even some leading up to the mid-centuries, kind of reflected our American values of freedom, mobility, and even our idea of what sexuality is. You could see it in the cars, you could see it in our dress, and then and I made a case of how that declined in the following decades due to some influences, a lot of influences from the German and French and Soviet thinkers that left, that immigrated to America and then took over our institutions during the 40s and 50s, unbeknownst to everyone. And we are still dealing with the concept. So woke is really an offspring of that movement. Sorry, I don't want to take up too much airtime because we're here to talk about something else. I guess TDS, we're going to talk about TDS. TDS is actually morphed now, mutated, right? 5-6 years ago when you said TDS, it was Trump deranged syndrome. Now it's Tesla deranged syndrome. So I want to get everyone's take on, are we headed to another summer of love with the Democrat Party? What's your technique?
burning Teslas.
Yeah, we're not burning cities now. We're burning Tesla.
They're going to be on the barricades, flaming Teslas.
Yeah. What's your technique? What's happening? Can we got to fireproofing our homes and everything?
I'm finding it interesting. I mean, all of it quite interesting. It goes right along with the swatting experiences that people are having as well, or the fake calls for violence in the home and sending a SWAT team to conservative influencers. And then, also burning down Teslas at Tesla dealerships. We're seeing this. What I'm finding, the main similarities I'm seeing in this is how the media and the Democrats are responding to it. And when I say similarities, I mean this. Since you alluded to the summer of protests, summer of love in 2020. And I was just watching a clip on X that somebody posted of Jimmy Kimmel doing a part of his monologue on this, and essentially saying that the reason people are doing this is because Elon Musk pretended to celebrated with a chainsaw to people's jobs, and it's almost as if he was saying that he deserved it, and that this was okay. This was an acceptable response from the people for doing this. There's also a senator's post that I also bookmarked too, and where he just went down sort of the list of protests and violent protests from the left, over the last decades, and really just talking about the response to that from the Democratic Party. And it's either silence or some sort of excuse for it. And that's where the similarity lies, because the media is not going to, and the media is the Democratic Party. I mean, the actual legacy, left-wing media is that, third or fourth wing of the Democratic Party anyway, extension. And so they're also responsible for talking about this stuff. You had Tim Walz on stage celebrating, almost dancing to the fact that Tesla stock was plummeting. And there was a viral video of a TikToker who was talking about who's next, basically, that this is the oligarchy. This is the beginning of destroying the oligarchy. And what I find really ironic about that is that the Democrat Party are the ones who actually gave Elon Musk his government contracts for SpaceX and for Tesla. So as I did my college tour with my daughter through New York State and Pennsylvania, and I'm stopping, especially in New York State, where every single kind of service stop has electric vehicle plugins, and I'm seeing how empty they are. I'm just finding it ironic that you're destroying the one car company that's American made, that really signifies represents your signature talking point, that that we're in a climate emergency and we need to switch to electric vehicles, and there's mandates in states like California, and the Biden administration tried to do the exact same thing, and now you're destroying the one company that's American built and very successful, and calling it destroying the oligarchy. Well, you're destroying your own brand. You're destroying everything that you stand for, and you're destroying private business and private lives. You're not actually destroying the oligarchy. The oligarchy is the structure that you voted for and allowed to reign over these years. Now, who's going to be your leader? Who are you? Who's next? Who's going to be your leader? Who are you going to assign this role to lead your party? You have none. And it's all my thoughts are all over the place, but those are the things that I've been thinking just over these last few days, seeing this online.
Great summary. Paul, do you feel like this is just really on par with the revolutionary Bolshevik blueprint that underlines the Democratic Party now? Like, if I don't, I only way to get your attention, watch me burn things out. And
I mean, I think it's a consequence of hype. Like, well, I want to connect it to the Luigi Mangione. I always confuse him with Chuck Mangione, two very different people. Okay, but Chuck Mangione, famous jazz flugelhornist. But Luigi Mangione is like this hero, right? He's this. There's murals of him painted like a saint. He's the assassin of the United Healthcare CEO, right? And it's this idea that we're going to be like, as a revolutionary, as a good person, you need to enact structural change through individual acts of violence, and it celebrates these acts of violence as transformative, as kind of cathartic, and the entire left, I guess call it a blob, has great sympathy, and even some people that are not on the left has sympathy for Luigi Mangione, and also like the normalization of these actions. I don't know whether it's like domestic terrorism. We could hash out why that's perhaps not exactly right, but it is definitely in the ballpark, where you have this catharsis of performing violent acts that are morally justified, and social media has accelerated this. I don't know that the people keying Tesla cars, everything from keying a car to stopping people on the street and pulling up and harassing them, like we're going to see in this video. I don't know whether that's terrorism, but it is violence. And I would add one more thing, is that well, let's maybe watch the clip and we'll
sure.
answer.
She was driving a Tesla.
I was thankfully by myself.
Lee was on the way to a doctor's appointment in Linwood Wednesday morning when she says all of a sudden a driver behind her just laid on the horn as they came up to a red light. Things spiraled out of control when a white SUV followed her and cut her off, stopping in the middle of the road.
Gets out and walks straight up to my window. So I cracked my window and I said, what is the problem? And he goes, you need to sell your car. This is a Nazi car. You're driving it. You need to sell your car.
Lee says she's been driving a Tesla for the last 2 years. She says the man wearing a camouflage jacket and a ski mask attacked her for it.
It's really sad, like, that this is what's happening to people who honestly, it doesn't affect how I believe or what I believe. It's just the car I drive. Being in Seattle, climate's important, our footprint's important. This seemed like the right move for our very busy family.
This, however, isn't the first incident or act of vandalism reported. We've seen attack after attack after attack. Teslas set ablaze at the Las Vegas Service Center earlier this week, with the culprit leaving behind the word resist. In Oregon, shots were fired at a dealership, and in Massachusetts, charging stations were torched. These incidents have only intensified since CEO Elon Musk has taken a prominent role in the Trump administration while slashing government jobs and spending.
Felt so intentional, felt exactly what he was there to do.
There was even a website, now taken down, sharing the personal information of Tesla owners to pressure them to sell their vehicles.
It was to align with what we thought, that it's easy to just, turn over a $60,000 car and find something new that works. That's not a decision that everybody can make overnight. And I think that puts a lot of us in a hard position.
Now, since being confronted, Lee says that she started taking the highways in order to feel more visible and avoid those back road stop signs. At the same time, though, she also tells me that she's made several reports regarding this incident. We're waiting to hear back if this individual is going to be facing any consequence.
So I'm going to pass the mic around to
That's crazy.
to Eric.
Okay, can I say one thing though first?
Sure.
For women? Do not roll down your window if someone stops in front of you. If someone cuts you off strategically, gets out of their car and is wearing a mask and approaches your car, do not roll out your window. You drive away. You drive away.
Or pull out the 9mm from your glove compartment.
Yes, but you can avoid escalating if you make a defensive move and drive towards the person or drive away. You do not stop and talk to them. Sorry, that is a safety issue. That totally struck me like, crazy woman, what are you doing? Clearly, Seattle.
Something a soccer mom would do. So
Yeah.
She probably doesn't.
so let me pass the mic around. So Eric, to you first. do you think that part of this escalation is the administration and local law enforcement not really stepping up promptly and saying, this is bad behavior? It's like signaling to society that, it's okay. We'll just let you play it out. Your little, quote, your version of the First Amendment here, protests. Like, do you think that our side and the administration and local law enforcement is not making a visible response enough to society and telling them, like, you don't do this?
In general, yeah. I mean, this started in 2020. As soon as we let those freaking idiots, burn down cities and create chop zones and tear down statues with impunity, we lost the plot.
Okay.
And we've been playing catch up ever since. I mean, I think, there are some redder areas that, are trying to, re-embrace, I would say, that traditional level of, enforcement. I understand where Paul's coming from about, terrorism charges, although I think terrorism makes more sense legally in these cases than like hate crimes, which some people are trying to call for. I think hate crimes are thought crimes. They're, it's like there should be, really tough penalties you can levy on somebody for, beating somebody up, keying their car, even if they're saying the most vile, racist, hate-filled stuff while they're doing it. The idea that we're going to add this hate crime thing really bothers me. But I mean, to your point, when you say somebody's Hitler and you say somebody's the Antichrist and you say somebody is, the worst person in the world and is a threat to democracy and is, over and over and over again. And it's not just the internet, this is, corporate media, saying this over and over and over again on a loop. And they've been saying it for, 5, 6, 10 years at this point about Trump. And, on the one hand, it starts to ring hollow for some people, right? Which I think is a big part of why he got elected, because that was the whole election. Kamala was like, it's Hitler, you're going to elect Hitler. And, enough of the country was like, yeah, we don't believe you anymore. But there is a subset of the population that goes, yeah, we have a chance to stop Hitler, right? We're going to do it and we're going to resist. And we're going to, when you have that mentality, everything that you do is justified. It is so insidious and evil and awful. And that's where we're at. And, again, I'm not in favor of making up charges, but these people should be, prosecuted and handled to the fullest extent. Every single legitimate charge that can stick to these idiots needs to happen. They need to be publicly shamed. Like we need to pull out all the stops. And back to your original question. Yeah, again, I live in a pretty red area now. And to be honest, the police are still, they're still namby-pamby. They're still kid gloves with everything. And look, I'm not a big police fan. I was a skateboarder growing up. I'm not like a cab or anything, but like, I'm not back the blue no matter who, like I think cops, can go bad wrong sometimes. It's a lot of power to have, instilled in one person sometimes. Right. But that said, we are still way on the wrong side of enforcement and what the community expects and needs. And these people need to have the book thrown at them, and they need their pictures posted everywhere. Their friends and family need to be embarrassed. Just pull out all the stops. And I would actually argue, Paul, I do think that this is terrorism. I mean, like terrorism is literally using violence for a political end.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yep.
What I don't like about is using this word terrorism. I think this word terrorism has become a way for state power to increase in very nefarious ways. And I don't want to see the right fall into the trap of calling things terrorism, which is, it shares that it's chilling, it's actions taken to chill political speech, and it's directly political in nature, which it shares with terrorism. It's violent, right? It's dangerous. It's burning things. But I have some qualms about just the expansion of the concept, and I don't know how I feel about it.
Nikki, what's your
Yeah,
take? How do you feel
I
about
was going to talk about the terrorism piece too. It was Senator Eric Schmidt who was the one who did that history thread, and actually Elon Musk reposted it too. So just if anybody's interested in that, but yeah, the word terrorism I think is very applicable because as we were looking as we're talking about it, I actually looked at the definition, and just to be clear, if we want to use good good language and accurate language, it does accurately describe what's going on. If you look at the American Heritage Dictionary, it's the use of violence or the threat of violence, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political goals. And that's exactly what's happening here. They're doing this with the swatting. They're doing this with the burning of the Tesla dealerships. Now, Paul, I do share your reservation, but I think it's more along the lines of how far do you see government going in labeling people as American citizens as terrorists and then taking that action against us? We saw
Patriot
how they
Act.
did this.
I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. We saw this with the Patriot Act, and then I think we just talked about this one of the more recent episodes where during the COVID pandemic, the federal government, the Department of Justice under the Biden administration, labeled any doctors who were speaking misinformation about COVID as domestic terrorists.
Yeah, and also the mothers and the school board meetings.
And the mothers in the
Parent
school
rights.
board meetings, the grandmothers praying in front of abortion clinics, that kind of thing. So I don't know that. I think the fear is real, but I don't know that we're going to tame that fear because it's already out there. It's already taking place. I do think the label does need to apply when it needs to apply, and people should be treated as such. Now, whether or not that means there's some sort of different level of punishment or prosecution, then that's a whole different story. But I do agree with Eric. I'm sorry. I think these people need to be made an example of that. This is not what you do. This is a repeat of actual violent activity that's harming people and harming people's lives. This should not be tolerated at any level. It's our government's job to protect us against this stuff.
Then let's call it political violence. Let's call it political
okay,
violence.
you can call it political violence.
Terrorism has a very specific legal framework around extrajudicial prosecution, like things that are going to.
Is that the case, or is it like terrorist organization has that extra piece of? I don't know.
When you get into a situation where the left and the right are competing to call to expand, to call things terrorists, sure, it may fit the definition of terrorism, but then you're like, well, the left is expanding the definition of terrorism. The right is saying these are the real terrorists. Everyone's arguing over how many, who should be terrorists.
Well, I think no. I absolutely disagree with that. I think that there's a difference between physical threats to people's lives. This is different. You're bombing things. We have this stuff.
I agree.
Bombing
the
things
underground in the 60s and 70s were terrorists. They were prosecuted as terrorists. That was terrorism. That was political violence.
Yeah, I mean, but
it's the same thing.
If you're actually committing violence, like physical violence, there is no gray line here. So the left is going to label something that they don't like terrorism anyway. The speech or political speech that they dislike, misinformation or disinformation that they dislike, they're going to label that no matter what we do. But something like this is black and white. It's very concrete. I don't see that there's any type of slippery slope here, and people need to be protected. So I don't have a problem with this being called that. But I honestly don't care. I just want these people to stop doing what they're doing and be prosecuted and stop harming people. Somebody's going to get killed.
At what cost? What's the trade-off that you're willing to live with as far as state surveillance, you want to put cameras everywhere again?
No, I want these people,
how are you going to catch these people?
Targeted and prosecuted. Well,
I mean, I agree. I want them to
do
I
their
want to target
job.
the prosecutors.
Do an
think-
investigation.
I think you guys
Right.
are talking about two different things in a way. Like Paul,
Yeah,
like
I'm not
you're
saying
talking about
like
the
you do,
mosaic
like,
theory. You're
some-
talking about like, almost like, are we going to do a new Patriot Act, to get these
No.
guys? I don't think that
Yeah.
that's what I don't want to say what Nikki's saying, but what I'm saying, and I think we agree, is that whatever exists now, use as many accurate charges as we have. And based on what I've seen, what I know, this seems to align with the definition of terrorism. Now, whether or not, Pam Bondi is going to, put a terrorism charge on top of, the other felonies that these bozos have done is up to her. Obviously there's a lot of, strategy in terms of what they can prove, right? You don't want to go into a prosecution, with a crazy charge and get nothing, right? You can't, even though they did that with Trump, weirdly, you can't like charge him with everything, right? And then you have to sort of pick the
Probably
right
not
one
with
that
the,
you're gonna.
with the DAs and judges in these cities anyway.
Yeah.
And that's another.
I'm
and
not,
that's
I'm not
another
alluding
point.
we go down some
Yeah.
slope where we start spying on our neighbors and then, see what, report your neighbor for.
I mean, we're already down that
I mean,
slope,
like,
in my view, but
yeah. Okay, yeah, but come on. This is like if somebody goes down the street and sets a fire to a home, and an arsonist sets a fire to your home or your neighbor's home down the
then it's
street.
arson.
You want your
It's
neighbor.
arson.
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly. So then,
okay.
so you want this reported
So
and prosecuted.
maybe this is a semantic thing, but I just think I have very particular qualms about the use of terrorism, like calling something terrorism. That's just a personal thing I need to work out.
I agree
Well,
with
I'm
you
also-
that these terms have been completely, all of them. It's like, everything's a genocide. Everything is a racist. Everything. I mean, look, we're all tired of it. I think that the
Right.
point that we're making
Mhm.
is that, this is pretty darn close, if not the definition of terrorism, which again is violence with a professed political aim, using violence to try and change, political outcomes.
Yeah.
And
I
again, the
went-
Weather
Mhm.
Underground and other 60s radical groups, the Black Panthers and, Assata Shakur, like they were charged with terrorism because what they were doing was domestic terrorism.
Yeah, I want to give you a bit of my perspective. So I totally get what Nikki's saying, but also Paul. But just give you a little bit of history with my family background. So my parents and my grandparents are from South Vietnam during the 60s and 70s. I don't know if people remember history, but back then there was this thing called the Vietnam War. So people don't know that leading up to the 70s, the communists had really actually infiltrated the South already, and there was like a daily daily menu of bombings, arson, people getting kidnapped, murdered, assassinations. And the blueprint was that you would demoralize the population, but also force the hand of the government in the South to really step up, countering the insurgents. But that was also by design. They kind of hit and run to the point where even if you weren't a communist, you were just kind of scorched earth. But it was really their tactic. So it's like, damn if you don't, damn if you do kind of thing. So they're playing like a very elaborate chess game here, where they are counting on us, either, not to strike back, because if we do, we're the bad guys. But if we do, we have to also be very thorough about it. Otherwise, they're going to keep on going with this thing. So I'm not saying that there's an easy solution for that, but not responding.
That's a great parallel. It really is an insurgency. It has sort of the look of an insurgency, like in Algeria or Vietnam. And the idea is to provoke a response, which is going to polarize the population further.
But the ultimate aim is actually not only to demoralize the population, but to also to get the question, to start having the conversations that we're having right now, like force us into this area, this point of introspection. Are we doing too much? Or are we doing too little? But at the same time, they don't have this moral introspection of what they're doing is wrong or right. It's like, we're gonna get our opponents to start questioning their own sanity or whether, you know, they're crossing the line or not. But we're just going to keep going until something breaks. So when I see them doing this back in 2022, it's like, I've seen this before. And it's not just South Vietnam. You think of any other Marxist attempted revolution in all the other countries that you don't know about. It's the same, just add water kind of thing going on. So I hope people understand that. But, you know, we're asking very quick question is like, how much is too much and how much, you know, how little is too little? But that's, just keep in mind, this is not a point of introspection. The Democrat Party and their sponsors entertain themselves. So we can't be like too asymmetrical in dealing with this. Otherwise, we will lose. That's why I was asking.
Here's the other piece of this too. Just like that clip just showed, this lady's in Seattle. How much is this going to be a local? You know, I don't know if there's no crime was committed in that video. But if something like this happened, like a building burn, or there was an arson and it was against a Tesla, you know, at a Tesla dealership, is the local police going to prosecute those people as terrorists? As domestic terrorists? May not. It may just be arson, right? So I think where we need to just draw the line is whether or not this becomes a federal crime, because then yes, domestic terrorism, you know, is a federal crime. At what point does that, you know, then cross over to that surveillance and that type of thing? And I think that's what you're saying, Paul. I'm not interested in making this like, you know, having the FBI go around and like do, I mean, well, at least taking advantage of I want the Patriot Act gone, period. So I don't want any use of the Patriot Act, even. But I mean, I guess people, I want these people charged with acts of terrorism, and whether or not that's something that can be done at a local level or federal level, that needs to be determined by, you know, the people who are versed in the law. I don't know how to do that, but we have to put a stop to it. There's only one way to actually stop people from doing it, is to make it so that they're not incentivized to continue doing it. If you're not going to get charged, or you're going to be in places like Seattle or some blue city where they're going to maybe charge you, put you in jail, and then you're going to be out in a few days.
Yeah, they're going to have free legal services.
You're going to keep and you get free legal service, then you're going to keep doing it. But that's also the irony of this whole entire thing, is because these dealerships and places are much more successful in areas where they're blue. So what you're doing is destroying your own local economy, and you're making people afraid, just like this lady in this video, of doing the thing that she thinks is the right thing by, you know, saving the climate, driving her, you know, a electric vehicle. You're going to start red pilling more people who were on your side. So it's just I don't know what the strategy is.
Teslas are guilty of internalized climate denial. Okay. On the surface, they look like they help the climate, but actually, there's like a whole logic you can go down.
Real quick, I want to just point this out. I mean, all of this comes back once again to my favorite word, hypocrisy. Every time something happens, I have this automatic mode where I put the shoe on the other foot. I swap the parties, I swap the players' names, and I think, I'm like, how would I react to this? Right. First of all, right, to try and keep myself honest to some degree. And then I go, how would these other people react to this? How would the media react to this? And what we had here is, you know, yet another clip of a comedy show, The Daily Show, laughing at what we're talking about, laughing at the fact that these Tesla dealerships and these Tesla owners are being attacked, violently attacked with fascist terrorism, Paul. But it's interesting because I wrote, you know, reverse the parties, swap the hosts. How would they react if MAGAs were torching Bud Light trucks and Greg Gutfeld was cheering them on? Again, they would be losing their damn minds. And I actually think that MAGA world would be like, stop. What are you doing? Don't burn Bud Light trucks. We can just not drink it. I mean, that's
Don't shop at Target.
Absolutely.
Don't,
you know what I mean? I think we saw
yes,
that.
I
With
agree.
truckers.
I do think that we police ourselves, whereas the left does not.
A lot better. We're not perfect.
We over police ourselves sometimes too. That's the problem. You know, if you consider that a problem, this is like a moral asymmetry here that they know how to use against us, and you know, and that's we're all being pushed to a corner. Like, you know, what is right and what is wrong. People don't have those introspections, so that's the challenge here.
They have the right to
play by their own rules. That's the one of the
to that exact point. Like they really do believe that they're right and righteous, and that we're not only wrong, that we're evil and we must be stopped because we're like, and that's where, you know, Trump is Hitler for the last 10 years. You know, you're a fascist, you know, you're a maggot, you know, and then John Cusack was out, you know, saying essentially like, you know, we need to burn this shit down, keep going, rah, rah, rah.
John Cusack.
It's unfathomable to me. Like, I would never say that. I mean, would you guys?
Say anything.
No.
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 You know, I'm trying to
it's
think.
Almost, it's an addictive type of personality.
It's mental illness. That's really,
it is.
Mental illness is another term it's thrown around a lot, but
very cult-like and addictive in nature. The more you're involved in it, the more you're entrenched in it, the more you continue to just kind of cycle the violence, and more everything just kind of ramps up. And it's more difficult to get out of it.
If you're convinced that you're going to create a better world, that there's this shining, beautiful future that history is going to lead us to, and you are the agent of that change, then you don't need principles. You don't need to worry about hypocrisy. You don't need to worry about change, because your eyes are on the prize of this utopia. And so, like, any criticism, I mean, they don't care. They don't care.
It's like the climate change example you had. Again, if you think that the Earth is literally going to end in 8 years if we do not stop, you know, Mobil Oil and Chevron, then you're out there, you know, willing to shoot people, right?
The issue is never the issue. The issue is the revolution. The issue is not climate.
The
issue is not
exactly.
Elon. It's not about that. It's the revolution and the glorious utopia.
Exactly. That is it. And that's the piece that we need to remember. Like, whenever we're thinking that, you know, it's hypocritical, but no, they're not. They want to destroy it all. They want to destroy the oligarchy. They want to destroy capitalism. They want to destroy everything, but they don't realize that what they're doing is destroying. Well, some of them do. Some of them absolutely want the sacrifice to be, you know, you destroy everything. But
I did notice a lot of the protesters. Did you guys notice this? Or you feel the same way? Like, they look really old. They look like boomers. Like, they're not young people. They're like these aging, cranky.
You are so here's so listen to this. I've been talking with a bunch of people in other towns and other cities. And again, I would encourage everybody here to take a look. I think the scheduled protest is Monday at like 3, because I've heard that from a lot of other people.
Scheduled.
I'm not joking.
Nationwide.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it's being driven by Indivisible, which is Reid Hoffman's outfit. And there's a back channel network that you belong to. It's vetted. And what they've done is they have activated these boomers, these progressive boomers who have nothing else to do but be mad. And they have gone out every week since Trump is in office with signs. And it is a, continued, by clockwork on schedule protest every week. The one thing that's interesting is they had, at a lot of these places and a lot of people I've talked to, they started off with the professionally printed signs, which I don't know why it's taken this long, but they very quickly realized that looks astroturfed, because it is. And so they started making their own signs. So the first couple weeks of January were were made signs or professional signs, and then they morphed into making their own signs, like Elon as a Phaelon, and there's no kings here, and and they fly their flags. They try and they're trying desperately. makes me laugh. They so desperately want the American flag to come back to them, but they have shit all over it so much. And as soon as you see people with American flags on the side, you're like, hey, MAGAs. They'll never, the progressives will never get the flag back ever. But it was very interesting because
that's why they keep adding stripes to the to the pride flag.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But it switched. It switched from Elon overnight. The signs switched from Elon to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it was Ukraine for a couple weeks. Same people, same corner,
same
group,
just
different signs. And as sort of a communications guy, I'm like, everybody is seeing through this. Like people. You're not accomplishing what you think you're accomplishing. You're a bunch of old white libs. I'm sorry, not to put people in little boxes, but that's what you do. And so I'm going to put you back in the box that you made, right? You're out there. You have nothing to do. You have way too much extra income and extra time on your hands. And you're out here making a fool of yourself. But my point is it's coordinated. They have activated. And because they don't have anything, if you've noticed, like Chuck Schumer's flailing on TV and they're infighting and they can't get their act together. The Trump fire hose of cat lasers 24/7 is so effective. It is so effective. It is so fun to watch.
Cat lasers. Oh, I like that.
Right. But they don't know what to do. And so this is sort of the one thing that they've grabbed onto, sort of this weekly planned protest that happens in every city and every town. I guarantee you there's one in your town is probably, again, the same 15 boomers that come out with their little signs. But
yeah, I have to ask. Well, hubby's on spring break this week, so he doesn't know.
Freeze it, polarize it, personalize it. That's the rules and other rules for radicals.
Right, rules
tactic, they make it about
is
Elon.
Is that Paul? Is that still a popular read among these wannabe revolutionaries?
I don't think people are actually reading the book anymore. But all of those
techniques
from, Chicago and who's the guy that Obama studied under, Saul Alinsky, all those things are propagated. He wrote Rules for Radicals. And so that technique of organizing, it's now like they're proverbs essentially. And there's another place called beautifultrouble.org, which has updated versions of all these kind of tactics, and organizers know it and they use it.
Yep.
And then there are people that just follow along because they're just told what to do, what sign to hold up.
So there's one thing I was very interested in. I'm interested in exploring as a graphic design person is why are people in first world capitalist countries like these boomers why are they so drawn to these revolutionary movements? And I have a hypothesis, it's not fully proven yet, that part of it is the aesthetics that these revolutionary movements provide. It's not proven, and that was one of the themes that we were exploring at my event last Saturday. Do you think there's something to that, Eric? You're a design guy. Is there an aesthetic to revolutionary movements that is better than, MAGA, that makes people to align themselves with that? I mean, it sounds very superficial, but I suspect sometimes this comes down to that you look better with that brand instead of this brand. Absolutely.
The left has always been, the left is the artistic community and the creative community has always tended left. It's something that I've always, when I was younger, I was, more liberal, right? But I would say classically liberal, and libertarian. I don't know if I was ever really a progressive, but yeah, bands and painters and movie makers, and there's something about it where, I get the sense that a lot of them they resent the capitalism aspect of sort of how they have to make a living. I think a lot of artists they just want to be sort of kept, and they want to make their shit. And they're good. A lot of these people are extremely talented, right? I think that's where sort of the socialism comes in. They just resent it. And what's interesting is, you guys might not know this name, but there was a very famous audio engineer and producer who died last year. His name was Steve Albini. He was very famous, like on the punk scene. He did like Nirvana's second album, and he did the Pixies. But he was this very famous, like, Marxist. Like, he just was this loudmouth, like, screw you, resist guy. And he would talk often about how much he hated, sort of the capitalistic aspect of the music industry. And he was very famous for, he would not take points on an album. Like, he did not take points on Nirvana's album. He took a flat fee. He's like, I'm taking my 30,000 from engineer fee, and fuck you, I'm not playing by your system. Like, he's an idiot. Sorry, but like, that's just it's a dumb financial decision. But
at least he is consistent with his belief.
Well, I did.
A lot of these
right? If
anti-capitalists are super rich.
Absolutely.
Nikki, let me ask you something.
Well, hold on a second. What's interesting is that aside from that sort of dumb, idea that he had, and he did that every time. He would always take a flat fee. He ended up like opening his own studio and creating his own label, and he figured out his own way, and he ended up very wealthy and very successful because he was good, and he had to do it. He had to make a thing, and he was like, I'm not doing it that way because screw the capitalist pigs. I'm going to do it my way. But all he really did was just kind of use the same system, free market capital. He crafted his own way to make money, and he was very successful. So my point is that there's a lot of hypocrisy there too. You know what I mean? A lot of these people are very, very rich.
Did he donate most of that money into, put that money into the United States Treasury, or no?
Oh yeah, and they hate paying taxes too.
Yeah,
they really do.
Of course.
But to answer your question, Perseus, the left is it's much better at branding.
Yes,
it's much better at marketing. And you even see it like when they did the giant blow up Trump baby balloon. Remember that? They flew it.
Yep. Yeah.
Fabulous piece of art. Honestly, it was hilarious. I'm sorry,
it was funny.
It was funny as shit, and somebody put a lot of time into that. They were very talented, right? I mean, the political cartoons on the left are like, there's 99 to 1, and they're all amazing, right? We have a couple that are pretty good on the right, but barely, it's consistent, and it's a problem.
So talking about branding, I want to circle back to Nikki. We know there was an amazing branding during the Summer of Love of 2020. It's an acronym, Black Lives Matter. What's the update on that? Are we just done? Are we bored and people have just moved on from that? Or is that still happening? Because we're talking about aesthetic and revolutionary action.
So I think these are the same people, to tell you the truth. I think that for the most part, Black people as a whole, especially those who shifted away from the Democratic Party during this last election, not necessarily those who voted for Trump, but a lot of Black people are unwilling to bear the Black Lives Matter flag anymore. And so I think it makes it very difficult for these revolutionaries to continue to have their movement when there's no Black people who are, that they can sort of attach it to. Now, however, if there's some police shooting and some unarmed Black person gets killed, these same people out there protesting are going to be doing it. I can guarantee you. However, I just don't think the mass appeal, the mass donations, all of that, you've seen the fraud. Everybody's been exposed to that. And there was a grassroots group of activists, against police and against local government policies who knew early on that Black Lives Matter was a fraud, and it really was more about this Marxist anti-capitalist movement and pro-LGBT, breaking up Black families, that type of thing. People knew that. We knew that. But it's really funny that you asked this question, because I just did my college tour with my daughter, and we went to a couple of schools in New York State and a couple in Pennsylvania, and there were Black Lives Matter flags hanging. So students
it never died in education.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And all the teachers and professors are still they still have the swag and they're still pushing the ideas. Black Lives Matter at school is still in curriculums and private schools.
Yes,
schools.
it is. There's a Black Lives Matter Day of Education, even.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen this though? The Lil Yachty interview, this clip?
No.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I did see that.
All right, so check this out. I mean, like it's very interesting the split, right? It's still happening on college campuses. It's probably still in boardrooms in corporate America, right? But the normies know what's going on.
These are very liberal arts, predominantly white schools too, by the way. So
right, but to have somebody, well, let's watch the clip and then we'll comment on it.
This is blurry. I be doing so much.
BLM? Because you want to be so black power?
BLM is a scam.
Clip that. Send it to the fucking news.
BLM was literally a scam. They had bought mansions, and you probably wouldn't know anything about it because you don't care about black people. You don't follow.
I do care about black people. Look at my chocolate.
Come on, lady.
Guys.
I think I'm literally the most pro-black person in this room.
Because you have an all-white staff?
They're not white. They're POC. Thank you. What? Don't laugh.
I do have a gay, so I also am
gay.
I have a gay on my.
A member of the LGBTQIA.
The point is that I'm diverse. I'm a divergent.
You are divergent. Did you like Divergent?
Divergent was okay.
I always forget we're near the same age.
Just.
I like that. That's what I was talking about. Really, two opposing people using aesthetics to conceal, their who they really are. So, Paul, what's your take? And then we can.
The other piece of that too that was very significant for Black people that was what I saw when that video was attached was being circulated by people who were saying like, look, there's always this attachment with Black Lives Matter, and in particular, the movement itself is always attached to other things. This people of color or POC thing. It's always attached to something else, even if it's LGBTQIA plus 10,000, it's attached to that. It is not just for Black people. And so if these organizations are trying to appeal to Black people specifically for our interests and things that are going to affect our community, that tactic is not going to work anymore. We see through it.
Well, here's another reason why I think it doesn't work anymore. And this kind of touches on what Eric was talking about, branding. And bit of branding 101 for everyone who's listening. If you want to start a movement, it's very useful to start you use any kind of 3-letter acronym, or if not more. Because people have something it's easier. It's more mnemonic. That's what we say in branding, BLM, LGBT, whatever, So I think this round with the TDS, the Tesla Deranged Syndrome, the party, that side hasn't done their branding. It's like they're still trying to figure themselves out. So there isn't something to kind of embody what in a 3-letter acronym or 4-letter acronym of what their next revolutionary action is. So that's my hypothesis. What do you think, Paul? Does every revolutionary action need a good acronym to be portable?
Yeah, it helps. Sure. I mean, it's some kind of crystallizing brand. I mean, the BLM fist was recycled from like other, but it had a long tradition, and it actually worked great. Like it was, it became this signifier which you could immediately identify. But I think what happened with BLM and the rapid response where an event will translate into mass action very quickly was undermined by police body cams, because they tried a few times in the past couple of years. They've tried to gin up some event where a Black person has been shot by a cop or somebody, but what happens is the camera footage, which was the thing that actually allowed, the thing to burgeon in the first place, became the thing that stopped it. So the police body cam footage, things like I can't remember any specific ones, but I remember there were a couple where They tried to have some very quick, rapid response rallies, and it just fizzled out because it became clear that the victim was the aggressor.
And they also had that one, and I think it was in South Carolina, where the cop just shot that dude in the fucking back, right? And it was very clear.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it was
yeah.
it was totally on the cop, like, and he
Right.
got sent up the river for the rest of his life. So, yeah.
So the panopticon is a knife that cuts both ways, basically what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you're never going to have another hands up, don't shoot.
That's a branding wise, Paul. That was a great one. That's another one. Hands up, don't shoot. So branding is
even
always
though it was a lie.
right, because it will
worked.
be exposed.
People still believe
the
that.
body cam. If
people
you
still
know,
believe that. A lot of people still believe hands up, don't shoot, and it does work.
It worked. Yeah.
What they're like, there'll never be another Michael Brown.
But again, the
poetic
failure
truth
of
when
the
you have
corporate
cameras.
media, right? That came out of an interview, I think, that CNN did, like right after the Michael Brown incident. Like somebody that they interviewed, claimed
it was a witness. It was a bystander.
Claimed that happened, and CNN and everybody else just took that as gospel and ran with it. And I remember thinking, like, when that was happening, it wasn't I didn't believe it, but I was like, what? Wait, nobody's gonna look into this?
Wasn't
like,
he
is
a
there any
friend of his? Was it
corroboration?
somebody who knew him? Like,
I mean,
no, I think it was a witness. I think it was a bystander. And Eli Steele's
what killed Michael Brown?
What killed Michael Brown? They did discuss that. So if anybody hadn't seen that,
it was a great piece by him.
Good film.
All right, we'll take a breath. Eric, you have a bean that you want us to look at? You're on mute.
While you're loading that, I agree, Percy. I don't see that there's any type of a branding attempt here, because I think just like you said, the fire hose of cat lasers is preventing them to figure out how they want to organize a singular message, and they haven't been able to do that. So you can't brand something if you don't really have a target. If your target is this is just a revolution, then that's it. I mean, and then you have to be honest about what the revolution is. It's basically burning everything down. Yes, because part of the strategy is to make people believe that the revolution is about something else when it isn't, and you don't have that something else right now to creatively and craftily brand it. So right now it has to either be the single fist and down with America, down with capitalism. That's the only thing it can be at this point, because you have nothing else.
Do you think there's an opportunity for us, because people forget that America was built on a revolutionary, I consider America like a very revolutionary concept. So it's, why should all the Bolsheviks have the fun? Do you think there's an opportunity in the next few decades for us to just rebrand ourselves like, hey, you live in America, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is a revolutionary concept. Get on board. What do you guys think?
It's the golden age. Let's make it happen.
I mean, we have always been the cool kids in the crowd, would still will be, it's just like, let's just remember that America is, we are
actually, I think in many ways, these Marxist ideologues are actually carrying on that, or they imagine that they are.
Yes,
and it's because when you think of it, like the American Revolution was a kind of a leftist thing for its time, right? Who are they fighting against? The monarchs, right? It was a Marxist, actually, Marxism and the dialectically, the American Revolution advanced history, right? Within a certain framework. It was a bourgeois revolution, but I mean, and it kind of fits in. They piggyback off that. So what you'd be saying, Perseus, is be content with that. Don't go farther, right? I don't know whether that will work.
Well, like, again, going back to, because I'm a graphic design branding guy, I always view things through that lens, and very interested in what's portable, what stays with people. So when MAGA came around, I kind of picked that up first, like, okay, well, you have a 4-letter acronym here, potentially to channel this revolutionary spirit that you think you lost 200 years ago. I'm just thinking that there could be better iterations that's very unifying, right? It will incorporate people that bought into BLM, and then it bought into whatever thing that they thought they were doing good for society. Like, this is what you can tap into, the revolutionary energy to counter the bullshit.
I think it would work if you tapped into the desperate desire for catharsis, right? So that means that the extremes have more in common than the moderates. So you would take, you could take that impulse and maybe you drive them to like capitalism or something equally radical on the other side, because radicalism loves radicalism. It's just the one thing it can't tolerate is moderation.
Exactly. You can't be lukewarm and tepid, to borrow the term from the Bible. You can't be lukewarm about it.
Passion.
Passion. So, that's a topic that I want to always keep in our things to explore. Aesthetics, revolutionary aesthetics, and how do we get everyone on board into something that they could all feel like they partake in.
Well, I would argue that the good news is that there has been a massive shift of independents and ex-default Dems that have left the left, right? And whether or not they're firmly on the right, or they're MAGA, or they're semi-MAGA, we'll see. But I do think that we're seeing a lot more creative types, in all the disciplines, Hollywood, art, music, who are being disaffected by the radical left, and they are either, going neutral, or they're sort of coming over to, the right-ish. And so I think that's going to help.
They're making these declarations that, okay, this isn't the party that I love, anymore. They're not really saying that I'm supporting the other side, but this I'm definitely against. We see
it's not an avalanche or anything, but it's a market uptick. You could definitely see it, especially after the election
on X at least.
Well, I mean, in some of these functions and things, who's the comic? Schwartz. I forgot his first name, but he's got the mustache. He's one of the new up and coming comics. I don't think he's MAGA, but he's definitely, I think he voted for Trump. And he talks about it as comedy act. And so it's a lot more mainstream than it was. Again, it's not as many people as I think we would like, but
yeah. So I think Paul has something very interesting to help wrap up our thread on aesthetics and classical futurism. I posted it on the private chat. Do you see it, Eric? Can you?
Yep.
And Paul, you want to give us a little bit of summary of what we're looking at?
I just thought of this, something I thought of a couple weeks ago. It's not, something other people haven't said, but it was just when we're talking about the needing to appeal, create branding to bring, to tap into that passion. The right typically, because of the fear of a Third Reich, right? They rarely are allowed to, or a Fourth Reich, I should say. They're rarely allowed to have a telos of any kind, like to actually project a future, a better future in time, because it conjures up all of these demons about fascism and, the consequences of. So all of their sort of, the right is sort of, what I want to say, like constrained or pruned to only think in terms of limited goals, or, we want to protect the family, or we want to, and so they're kind of constrained in that way. And what you're seeing is this, people want to burst out of that paradigm. It's a very limiting paradigm. And it's one that the left loves, and they've been running with it for centuries, or over a century, is that they get to determine what the history is. They get to determine where we're going. They get to be progressing towards what? Progressing towards some goal, some endpoint that they can see and are legitimate because they have the best of intentions. If the right were ever to break out of this cage, that it's in many ways a self-imposed cage, and sort of, destroy the demons of the Nazi this sort of Nazi spell, which everyone is sort of living under since the end of World War II, that we can't be like Nazis. We can't be like Nazis. We don't want to go too far. And to actually realize that you're not going to be a Nazi if you project some better future. You know, if you want to talk about utopias or 1,000-year Reichs, that's a danger zone. Okay. But between that and something actually, you know, attainable and beneficial, there's a huge spectrum of possible future end goals that you can achieve. What would be like a 20-year conservative plan or you know, right-wing plan that wouldn't freak everybody out, right? They say Project 2025, they're gonna be fascists, they're gonna be theocrats. How do you break out of the cage in a way that is going to be that you can give yourself permission to do that, right? This is something I've been thinking about for a while.
So here's
the comments are interesting too, because people don't like the idea. That people were very upset. Some of the people were upset in the comments. I tried to sort of clarify what I meant by it. But sorry, go ahead.
Nikki.
Yeah, what I think is, I think that there is this. I honestly, truly believe that there are certain people on the right who are true, like who say that they're true conservatives, who don't actually understand what conservatism is. They don't understand what it means to conserve the republic, like really truly believe in the Constitution, not bastardize it, not bastardize history. Because the mistakes that we're seeing is that they're doing the exact same thing that the left is doing, except towards the direction that they want it to be. And so if you say that you're pro-family, then act like you're pro-family by, one, being involved with your family, have a family, have multiple children, get married, have multiple children, interact with your family, have big family events, do all of these things. And that is the individual person kind of living out that dream, and then interacting with your community. It's very simple. What we're trying to do is make it very complicated and convince people that it works when we actually know that it works. But some people don't really understand it, for one, to be able to articulate that this is the goal, that is the goal. What is the goal? And
Totally
then
agree.
and that the goal actually does work. So like there's this it's very enticing to want to come up with something that's very kind of futuristic and that's not going backwards, and say that and tell people that, oh no, we don't want that. We're afraid. We don't want that. We don't want you to think that we want to go back to Hitler-esque or go back to slavery or any of that. We just want to be us and be free and be all of these things. If you can't articulate it beyond that, like what it looks like to people, then you're not, that's why you're not doing the job. You feel like you owe these progressives some sort of explanation or some fantastical view of what the world should look like, and you don't. That's
but if you don't come up with it, what I mean, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on everything. I would say, first of all, power is a vacuum. If you tend your own garden, you create the sort of the joys of family, and all those things are true, and you take it out of the realm of the political, and conservatives generally just want to be left alone, right? They want to be left alone to pursue that vision.
No, personally. They don't. That's bullshit. That's
I think
real conservatives do.
Yes, that's what I mean. I'm using your definition.
People in charge want you to believe and think like they do. Like they're putting the Ten Commandments in schools and things like that.
No, but
these
what
are
happens
the people who are ruining what they don't understand what conservatism really is.
Also,
and you can do that by illustrating examples of how it worked in the past.
But
like
you
this,
need to
this
do
is
it at the
this
level
is what
of policy.
happened.
You need to have a policy vision to protect those things. Because if you don't, the left is going to come in and make their utopia. What are you going to do?
But
You're going to let them make their utopia?
You can't convince people that those policies work because you don't understand that those policies work, then no, you're not going to convince the left. You need to have the conversation in a way that shows them that those policies work. And the way to do that is illustrate examples from the past where it actually did work.
Yeah, but
because
Nikki,
I
just want to step in and kind of maybe, I don't know whether it's pushback, but if we're talking in the context of recapturing cultural institutions, the aesthetic institutions, the people that occupy that space have a certain psychology that is quote unquote forward looking. So I don't disagree that, you know, these what you call conservative, I consider classical values, meaning it's timeless. It's not really, it's not looking back, looking forward. But for creative people, it's just in our DNA to always want to innovate and bring something into being. That's how they're made up. You know, conservatives can argue, but that's how we always want to quote unquote look forward, and looking forward isn't a bad thing. And what I'm saying is that we have the opportunity to take what you would call conservative value, but then iterate them again in that context for the future, if that makes sense. So it's not telling people to look back, because the portal to the future is in looking back, for lack of a better word, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
I think for me, conservatism is about conserving those classical values.
Yeah,
so
but
that's
the
how I view
it is also timeless. So if you were to go back to the 1800s or 1700s, in their mind, I think their sense of history might be very different from ours, because in their mind it's always being, it's always, you know, it's like there is no concept of like something that's in the past and the future, because they were living in the present, and therefore because they were living in the present with their classical values, they were also living in the future, if that makes sense. But I'm just saying that in the art and creative world, there is this like impetus to need to innovate and explore new ideas. And if you know, we ultimately care about quote unquote conservative values, sometimes we may have to go to a point where we, you know, just as I'm willing to drop the word classical liberal because it's confusing to people, we also have to like just focus on what the outcome is. If people are not willing, are not comfortable around the word conservative, it's not important, right? At the end of the day, if they're having babies, children, and have like great nuclear families, that's the outcome we want. And branding is all about how do you get to iterate that for future generations and what that will look like, but still it preserves the classical values. So I know we're splitting hairs here.
I actually disagree with you about art, like being about, you know, newness and innovation, because a lot of art tells the stories of the past, a lot of it.
But
and a
here's
lot
the
of
thing.
what we're seeing now is sort of a repetition. You're seeing even like in the movies, you know, in the movies, you're seeing modernized versions of older movies, of classical, you know, of classic movies. Same thing on stage. You're seeing a lot of that stuff being retold. So there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it in an innovative way. And I think the innovative way is to tell the story differently than than the way it's been told. Because we've only been told it one way.
But the reality is that conservatives are not winning that battle, and that's the reality. And that's
they're not winning that battle because they don't understand the battle. They don't believe it. That's what I'm trying to get at.
That's why we're talking about.
They don't believe that it actually works.
This is what I mean.
And they don't know their history.
They don't know the history. This is the kind of wall I'm running into to people on the conservative world. It's like, I want to help you advance what you call conservative values, what I call classical, but we have to like understand the pathology and the psychology of the people who owns institutions to make inroads. So, you know, so 1,000 years from now, the question for you, Nikki, is, and people who so that 1,000 years from now, how would they tell the story of 2020 and 2025? You know what I mean? That's another way of looking at it. Like, would they consider this a classical period too? Because time is relative. So do we want to move on? Because this
let me just say one quick thing. I first of all, I think we should honestly do an entire show on this topic. I think it's incredible. One thing that I find that's helpful for me, and I think that I've actually had some luck with what we're trying to accomplish here, is you got to split apart the nomenclature, right? Like progressive, progress. Like progressive does not mean progress, right? Progressive means, first of all, progressive is a party, right? It was a party in the turn of the century. You know, Woodrow Wilson was a progressive. They took credit for women's, you know, right to vote, but they weren't really the drivers of that. Modern progressives, very, very different. Conservative, though, this is a thing that's very interesting to me. I think we run into problems when we try and define and lasso conservative as a thing, like you're not a conservative, right? And it's almost like, well, what kind of conservative are you talking about? Because I find myself, I'm a governmental conservative, I'm a fiscal conservative, I'm a judicial conservative. I'm not so much a social conservative, right? I'm not, super subscribed to a lot of the Christian and religious conservative sort of stuff. That's just me. I'm a bit of a mix. There are, we do see some of these people from the alt-right, or they're trying to call them the woke right, but I fucking hate that term because it's really confusing. But this idea, these sort of these traditional conservative, they call them trad cons, the people that are like, they pretend to be hyper, Christian, and they want women back in the kitchen, with, barefoot, and pregnant, making the babies, Andrew Tate sort of stuff. And like, to me, I think it's very unproductive to battle for the word conservative with these idiots, right? It's like, if you want to, go crazy down that lane, that narrow path of essentially social conservatism, right? It's almost like, the Taliban putting women in the beekeeper suits. Like that's a narrow path of religious social conservatism in that culture, right? If you want to try and do the same thing, in the West with tradcon, barefoot pregnant wives, go for it. We're not, you're not in the same tent with us in general, right? You can go and make your own little tent and try and get people to come into your tent, but we're more concerned with the stuff that we've all been talking about here, which is these classical, concepts, right? So I do think it's important and helpful to split off, what kind of conservative are you talking about? Because when you talk about conservative as this sort of huge monolith that you want everybody to fit in and be the same way, I think it's really counterproductive. And I've just had a lot of luck for myself and for, talking to other people when you sort of split apart these things, right? Because what you can do is you can find common ground on a lot of these. And I have a lot of very religious friends that we just, we agree to disagree on a couple of these things, but that's about it. It's like 9 out of 10 of the other things we're good on. So
yeah,
anyway,
I think, go ahead.
No, finish up your thought and I'll just close this out.
Yeah. So I think we're almost coming to the hour, but I just want to wrap up my thread of thought, Nikki. So I think at my end, I like how Erica kind of expanded the version of conservatism, but for my end, I feel like I have an idea and bit of a roadmap of how to extinguish, as Paul say, the desire for revolutionary action in my industry. And that's how I think I know how to do it, by promoting these classical principles. Excuse me for the spam call. Sorry about that. So there's a lot of hair splitting with words and how do you rearrange words, but it's just like I have a kind of like a clear roadmap. Like I know what they're after. They're either that they're progressing to something, and these movements could help satisfy their needs in that respect. But I can also know how to call out, like provide another, help them channel that revolutionary instinct into something that's more productive and not destructive, if that makes sense. And in my game plan, in my industry at least, I'm not trying to do this for entire society. It's to present what we would call conservatism or classical principles as revolutionary. Actually, that's my tactic. So
I think what you've talked about with beauty, proportion, composition, like these things are kind of eternally radical. If you innovate in the production of those things with those things in mind.
Yes. And then I could even tie that in from a biblical point, because in the beginning, the creation began with a thought and then it was spoken into being. So the direction of creation is always expansive. There is a movement, even from the point of creation, from Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, it's always moving and expanding out. So this movement is, for now, lack of a better word, what you can call progress, and something that I'm trying to convince the people in my discipline to rethink. It's not regressive. It is progressive, but in a way that's constructive for them, but still maintains that point of origin from the creator, which is really the underlying ideology that I'm proposing for classical futurism. There's the alpha and the omega, but when you fall out of that, then you are like a communist progressive. You're not really progressing. You're regressing to the point of oblivion before there was creation. So I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit in the woo there, but that's me wrapping up my my train of thought.
Yeah, let's. I'd love to talk more about this. We could talk for hours.
Yeah, I think we should do a whole thing. Well, let me just do this real quick. I want to. It's funny because Nikki messaged me and she says, "Dude, I think that you're being rude and you should follow Paul back on X." And so, first of all, no, I don't want to follow you. No, but listen to this. I just want to show you guys this. Right, this is a glitch.
I'm being censored. I'm being suppressed.
I know, right? This is a glitch on X, right? And we have a lot of, I had to switch mics, by the way, because I have lawn workers next to me. So if you can hear it, I apologize. But this is, no, leave that up, please.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I want to show you some. So this is a glitch on X, okay? It's on desktop. And for as long as we've been on X, all of us have been like, man, why did that person unfollow me? Why did Nikki unfollow me? Did I say something to her? Like, did I offend her or whatever? No. If you use X on desktop, this is a glitch that is across every platform. And what it is, look, it wants me to follow you back. And if I click this, what it does, Paul, is it unfollows you. So look at this. I'm going to click on your name. I'm following you.
Oh, so when you follow back, you're actually unfollowing.
Yes.
Doesn't remember that you're already following.
Oh.
And again, it's like I have every time Elon has asked for like X feedback, I've been like, you have to fix this glitch. And he, of course, nobody responds or pays attention.
Okay.
But this is a big deal because what happens is right, if you saw my name up there and it said follow Eric, you'd be like, oh shit, I'm not following him. I got to follow him. You would click it and it would say following, but really what you have done is unfollowed. So it's a huge problem.
Oh my God.
I have no idea what you just said. Okay.
And the way that, the way that the app treats the desktop, like things don't go over. I mean, I could save a draft on the app, but that draft won't show up on desktop. Like a drafted post.
Oh yeah.
It's very,
sharing the drafts is a problem.
Yeah. So it's, I did not notice though the follow thing because I kept thinking it was like, oh my God, I'm not following this person. This person, I thought I was following this person. So I didn't realize that it meant that I unfollow. Well, then I will unfollow them if I click follow back. That's crazy.
It's a problem.
I'm certain I follow all of you. I don't know what that little purple subscribe button I saw in Paul's.
Well, that's just Paul's grift.
Yeah,
I'm grifting on. I have one subscriber. One lucky.
Look, I'm trying to reach your level, dude. I need to reach your level.
I gotta say, I'm raking it in with $3 a month on my.
Hey, whatever. It's anything I have money for right now.
We all got a side hustle.
$1 a month.
Subscribe.
I know.
I think it's a good
I'm not at subscription level. Even every time I try to get getting subscription.
I wouldn't know what to offer though.
Make it happen. I have way more interesting things to say.
I wouldn't know what to do, because it won't let me. I've checked. It's like you are not eligible for subscription. I really don't care. But even if I did, I would kind of be at a loss as to what extra to give besides my jerk ass, hot takes. I give to everybody for free. So
whatever.
Nikki, you have more followers than me. I don't know why. I mean, have you set up your
So I have the followers. What I don't have is you have to have 5 million impressions in a 3-month period.
Oh my god!
I did get a lot of impressions. Yeah, maybe that's it.
I can't. I don't know how to feed the machine like that. I'm not. Eric will tell you.
And honestly, I tried it when I was like really desperate. I really tried to I don't. You guys probably saw some of my posts where I was like really trying to farm engagement with you're an idiot if you think that eating beef tallow is going to make you less fat. You know, I'm like, it's,
Oh, I like that.
and
I
it
like
was,
that.
it was
I like your
honest.
takes on
Yeah.
It was
that.
honest engagement. You know, like, I wasn't like, lying or fabricating things. It really was, but that was what I was trying to do. And I got a lot of engagement, but it takes a lot of work to keep it up. You have to comment on everything.
I don't want this to be my job for sure.
I don't want to make Twitter my job, but that is
Yeah.
literally what they're trying to get people to do, is make it their job. And that's what people, and like, and the whole robot or AI version of kind of responding to things, I'm not even like into that. So I don't know if that helps, which I think should be demonetized. If you're actually using robots to generate engagement, that's insane. So
have you noticed, like, I just
that's
see all these, like,
nother...
you can kind of tell ChatGPT or AI replies now so easily.
They do. Yes, he did label it that way, but it doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't demote the posts.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So it's like, it still gets engagement. And I think that's wrong. Like, we should be generating genuine engagement with humans on this app, not computers.
Yeah. So we're coming up to the hour. What are we does someone want to look at this to go pull up, and then I will
I just thought that this was a good little ending piece for us. It's I wouldn't say it's super funny, but it is pretty self-explanatory.
I have a happy bean. I just want to close out with a happy bean so we can look at this.
All right, fine. I'm gonna do the pre-close out with a sort of Schadenfreude bean. How about that?
Okay. You're looking for your play button. What's happening?
I think. Oh, is he frozen? No, his eyes moved, so I know he's not frozen.
I think he's frozen.
No, his eyes.
He's blinking.
He's just like really.
It's like,
really, he'd be a great surgeon. He's really in control of his body.
Eric, is the Matrix glitching today? What's wrong with it?
It looks like
Eric, you're on mute. You're on mute, Eric.
Oh, sorry. Is it not playing?
No.
All right, here. Sorry, let me try again.
We were talking about you the whole time.
Your circuit.
You're admiring.
Sorry, guys. Wait 1 second. I actually had it in another window, and I think I was playing the wrong window. I'm bad.
Got it.
Here we go. All right, you guys see it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why he won. Because people like you. That's why he won. That is why he won, because of people like you. You need to stop it. Let him live. Bro, just like, bro, chill, bro. You're okay with that. He's a racist. I don't know. How can I be racist, bro? If you fucking I'm racist. He's a racist. How can I be racist? No, he's not. Leave him alone. Doesn't watch the news. You realize he was a Democrat. I'm highly educated. Oh, are you? I just why are you wearing that hat?
I love how everybody else is just minding their own damn business.
Yeah, classic New York.
Yeah, thanks for reminding my morning commute, Eric. That's my commute.
Oh.
Is this the 28th? Is that the one train?
Yeah, it looks like it. Looked like it.
Yeah, that's my morning commute.
They're just, I mean, it's just,
They're
really
insane.
is a
Bet you in the hat, Marcius.
No. Are you kidding me? You want me to walk into my ad agency wearing that hat? I'm very undercover, I'm like, people think.
I know. I'm joking.
Paul's being revolutionary.
Eric,
Red
did you want to say something about this?
Red pill, Matt.
I thought it was interesting how the people on the train were defending those guys. They were like, they were, the people that were talking, and they were calling that woman out. They were saying, "Shut up! What are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing?"
Well, and the one guy was a
think
black guy. That's why she brought up the word racist. She was like, "How can you? How come you don't think he's racist? Like,
Don't you watch the
like
news?
yeah, because I yes, exactly. Like,
Don't you watch the news?
you know, I have to like think of people like individuals, and I treat them for who they are."
So thank you for that bit and reminding that we have a lot of work, but also a lot of creative opportunities for everyone, conservative, classical liberals, and neoclassicists alike. We're all working towards the same goal. And I want to wrap up with this palate cleanser. Has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So I have to go off of X for this one. So let's see. Okay. Oh, wait, let me do a screen share. It's on Instagram. So let's, no, what?
Oh no.
Come on. The mate.
What did you bring in here?
He's not biting.
What is it?
I don't know. I forgot the name. It's just a critter.
Oh my God, Landon, what are you guys out there doing?
We found him.
Oh my God.
He's so...
Okay, listen.
Clean him and wash him and dry him.
I don't even know what it is.
It's a critter.
I know it's a critter. Is it face down?
This is its face. He's
oh my
God. I got in the pond to save him.
Okay, I'm like terrified of it. Please don't drop that cup.
I won't.
Look at the cat. Be out.
Oh,
it's a mole. Oh my gosh, how cute.
Okay, I just thought that was a very cute interaction. Mom and kids out there playing, not looking at social media, and they come home, they bring home the goods, and that's what kids do. They go and bring in stray creatures and animals, and I just like that the mom doesn't even know what a mole is, and the kid was telling the mom, I want you to go and dry him and clean him and dry him. It's very wholesome. It's very American. I love the aesthetics.
Playing outside, finding things.
Okay, there's a
grass.
There's a telos I can get behind.
There we go.
How do we politically protect that telos though?
There we go.
At the level of policy.
That's a branding question for Eric.
If we don't, someone else will.
Stay away from it.
How do you
well, then you're ceding the territory to the progressives.
How do you take that energy there that we've had, that feel good vibe, put it in either in an acronym, a t-shirt, I don't care how you do it, Nikki, I don't care how you do it, Paul, and then just like mass distribute it and then make that revolutionary, make Americana revolutionary. So something for all of you to think about. Thank you again for making Morning Coffee Stream 31, and we'll see what happens in 32. So
thanks, guys.
All right.
Got a little spicy in our coffee.
Thanks, everybody.
Great. I really